Salaries account for a very large part of the Ontario budget every year, and one of the biggest sectors in that regard is education. The fact that the contracts for teachers from K to 12 are up for negotiation right now could have a direct bearing on how the government's final numbers add up in next spring's budget. Here to get us up to speed on those teacher negotiations, Caroline Alphonso, education reporter for the Globe and Mail, and we are delighted to welcome you back to TVO.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
What is the biggest, in your view, stumbling block between no agreement and agreement so far?
Well, the short answer, both sides are really far apart. The long answer, there's a lot of little things that are happening. A lot of discussions around sick leave, pay, full-day kindergarten, class size. There's a lot of little things that are happening that are keeping both sides very far apart.
Those sound like a lot of big things, not a lot of little things.
Yes, they are big things, but there's not one overarching element here. You have a lot of different things that are taking place.
Got it. So when people say this is all just about teachers wanting to be paid more, it's all about wages, not really.
Not really.
Not really.
Not
okay.
this, no.
You did mention full-day kindergarten in that answer. Now, how is that a part of these negotiations?
Well, Sam Hammond, who's the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, mentioned in a press conference recently, or was it a scrum perhaps, that the government is not committing to the staff ratio right now in full-day kindergarten. There's been no commitment. The government hasn't said anything. They said they're committed to the framework of full-day kindergarten, but not the staff ratio. As you know, there's a ECE and there's a teacher in most classrooms.
Early childhood educator and a teacher.
And a teacher in most classrooms. And there's been no commitment there, according to EDFO, that would remain status quo.
So the union is inferring that the government may want to increase the pupil-teacher ratio or maybe get the educational assistants out of the class or
There was a
something
lot
like
of
that.
speculation around that for months now, that the government wanted to change the model of full-day kindergarten, maybe put 2 ECEs in there, maybe just have a teacher in there.
Because that's cheaper.
Because it's cheaper, exactly. So there's, the fact that they haven't committed to the model as it stands now, which is a teacher in an ECE, EDFO has said that's a stumbling block as well.
But that's a million miles away from some of the rumors we've heard, which is this government wants to cancel full-day kindergarten. I mean, they've never said that.
They've never said that. They've never said they want to cancel the full-day kindergarten program. But what we're looking at is the model in full-day kindergarten. That's what we're looking at now.
Let us acknowledge the fact that one union in the education sector came to an agreement a while ago, CUPE I'm talking about, the Union of Public Employees, because they had the great good fortune of having their agreement negotiated in the middle of a federal election campaign.
That's correct.
Right? And everybody wanted to keep the heat down.
That's right.
There's no federal election campaign anymore.
There's no federal election campaign anymore, you're right.
So how's that having an impact on all of this?
This is taking a lot longer. So CUPE, as you said, was before federal election campaign. It was, a week before? I can't remember. It was last month sometime. And it was down to the wire there. And they reached an agreement late in the evening on the Sunday night. The schools, many schools across the province, many school boards across the province plan to close their schools as a result of it. Everybody was waiting. Parents were waiting to see what their childcare arrangements would be for Monday. CUPE ended up getting more than I thought they would. They got the
because of the timing.
Because of the timing. So they got sort of this local priorities fund that was negotiated in a previous contract that gives them extra staff in schools. Sick leave stayed the same. The benefits stayed the same there. They got the 1%. They agreed to the 1% a year for 3 years salary wage increase. So how that will play out in negotiations with the other unions is going to be interesting to watch going forward, because there is no federal election. There is more time.
And let's just spell this out. The government of Ontario, a Conservative government, wanted no strike and disruption in the schools.
Exactly.
Because they were trying to help their pal Andrew Scheer, the federal Conservative Party. But since that's not a factor here, do we infer from that the Ontario government negotiators intend to be much tougher in their bargaining positions with the current teacher unions?
From what I'm hearing about what's being discussed at the table, yes, they are tougher with the unions. The things that they're looking to change, to take away, they wouldn't have proposed that, perhaps, some would suggest, if it was during a federal election. So there has been a change in what's happening at the table. There's been a change in how how the minister and others are presenting their cases. The tone has changed slightly as well.
From what to what?
Well, it was more, we need to reach a deal. We need to reach a deal. They still want to reach a deal. They still say that. But now they're talking, there's more of what the unions are asking for and what the government is asking for out in the public. That was not the case as much when it came to QP.
Okay. Let's see if you can help us understand sort of where we are in the chronology of this thing, because the teachers, I gather, are working without a contract right now, right?
They are.
The contracts all expired before the school year began.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean you go on strike right away, right? You take a strike vote, there are a bunch of different
It's a whole process.
steps in the process. The latest step, I gather, that the secondary school teachers have got and that the elementary teachers are seeking is this thing called no board status.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So I think you need, one of my colleagues at a different media outlet has a spreadsheet going of what each union is up to. So we'll start with the secondary teachers, the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation. They weren't reaching an agreement, or they were so far apart that they asked the conciliator for a no board report, and they got one. A no board report means that they have 17 days to be in a legal strike position. That's what it means.
Doesn't mean they definitely go on strike in 17 days.
It doesn't mean that they go on strike. This is all part of the negotiating, bargaining process. What it means is they could possibly go on work to rule. Like, that's how it starts. They start with work to rule. They start with they don't participate in extracurricular activities, for example. They don't stay after school. They don't do hallway duty, that sort of thing.
Coach the sports team.
Exactly. And then it escalates to strike action. Or this allows them to go on strike if they choose to do so. The Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, which is the largest education union in the province, they applied for a no board report this week. So they could be approved today, tomorrow, next week. That sets the clock for them as well, 17-day countdown until they could be in a legal strike position. The Catholic teachers is the other group that's negotiating with government. They are also conducting strike votes at the moment. They have not applied for a no board report as yet, so that they could possibly do that. So with the Elementary Teachers Federation and the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation both possibly getting their no board reports, they could both be in a legal strike position by the end of this month, is what we're looking at.
That's a lot to keep on top of. Well done.
Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets. Okay, so 17 days away then. If I recall, 22 years ago, there was a teacher strike when Mike Harris was in power, lasted a couple of weeks. As long as you guys are taking bets and making spreadsheets, what are you putting the odds on a strike happening this time?
Listen, I've decided my crystal ball is probably not worth it anymore. I'm just sort of watching this unfold. I understand from doing this for as long as I have is that this is part of the negotiation process. You're right, Steve, in the sense that 20 years ago, we saw this happen. Is it going to play out in the same way this time around? Time will tell. We have seen during the Liberals' time in government, we did see one-day strikes. We did see work to rule. We saw rotating strikes. We never saw the magnitude we saw during the Mike Harris government. The unions and the government seem so far apart from what I'm hearing that it depends what Doug Ford and his government decide to do going forward. Whether they decide to stick to their guns and keep this sort of, this is my proposal, this is what I want to do, or whether they sort of like cave in a little bit here and there. They've started to do so in some respects. If you remember the high school teachers union, one of the things that the government wanted to do in high school is increase the class sizes.
Right.
So the average class size for boards would be 28 students. Stephen Lecce came the education minister came out last week and said, well, we took this offer to the secondary school teachers union that we would only increase it to 25. The average would go down from 28 to 25. It's still gone up from 22.
Still up from 22.
Still up from 22.
But it's compromise.
But it's compromise. But the flip side of it is what the government was asking the union for is that every school board has in their local agreements caps on class sizes. So they keep class sizes small for workplace courses or for special needs courses for students. So that, and the university class sizes, the university courses, the academic courses would have larger class sizes. So what the government is asking is to remove those local class caps from collective agreements for the 25 average.
Because we should remind everybody that's an across-board average.
It's an across-board
It's not a maximum
average.
per class.
That's right. It's an average
difference.
across the board. So you could have classes of 40 kids. You could have classes of 20 kids. Yeah.
Let me put this forward and you tell me if this means anything. Because I know you and I have both seen lots of teacher negotiations in the past, and I have seen the rhetoric flaming, and it's not yet. I see the Minister of Education saying, you know what, I'm prepared, my door's open 24/7 to continue negotiating. I'm disappointed with what I'm hearing from the unions, but he hasn't been using inflammatory rhetoric like union bosses and we're going to starve you buggers and all this kind of stuff. And similarly, the unions have been pretty responsible in their language as well. What do we infer from this?
I feel like we are at this juncture where I think both sides want a deal. They want to work on a deal. Nobody wants to see kids out of the classroom. Nobody wants to see kids at home for long periods of time. So it hasn't escalated to that point. And perhaps it won't. Perhaps, both sides, despite the no board reports, outside of the strike votes, perhaps both sides could reach agreements, could reach compromises. I think they're still hopeful that will happen. I don't think it's escalated to that point as yet. It's still early days, though. I feel like it's still, even though the contracts expired at the end of August, I feel like we're still going through the process. And perhaps, it will go on into December, into January. I could be wrong. I mean, come the end of this month, who knows what's going to happen.
The fact they're still talking is encouraging.
It is encouraging, yes.
Help me figure this out. The opposition and the teacher unions have said that this government is cutting education. And yet, I was down at Queen's Park yesterday for the economic statement, and the government of Ontario is going to spend $30 billion next fiscal year on education. That's the most ever. Education spending will go up 4%. That's twice the rate of inflation. How exactly do you make the argument that there are cuts when I see those numbers as well?
The education budget now includes the childcare money. So that's why we're seeing the increase.
I see.
It's not solely the education budget anymore. It's changed to include childcare. So that's why we're seeing the increase. So it looks a lot
bigger than it used to for that reason.
That's true. And there's also a pot of money in the budget for attrition of teachers. So we see that money flowing into the education budget.
Which is a one-time thing.
Which is a one-time thing.
Okay.
So we're seeing the increase as a result of that.
So both sides actually are a little bit right on this one. Yes, education spending is way up, but it's because of these
caveats.
With caveats, because of these one-time expenditures. Okay, I got that now. Let me try this. I spoke to an elementary school teacher over the weekend who said, we are not too worried if we end up having to go on strike because we know the government's just going to legislate us back right away anyway. How widespread do you think that attitude is?
I would say that sentiment is shared by a lot of people. Whether we're going to see a repeat of what happened under the Liberals with Bill 115, which is the legislation that, took away teachers' right to strike, caused a lot of chaos across the province.
Tried to claw back sick days.
Ultimately
ruled unconstitutional.
Yes, and they have to, and I think the payments to teacher unions are still coming in now. Do we want to get to that point again? We'll see. But right now, the sentiment that the government will legislate teachers back to work should they strike is shared by a lot of people.
It's not great, though, if it gets to that stage, is it?
It's not good for public education. It's not good for the teacher who's standing in front of the classroom, their motivation, their esteem. They are. It's not. It doesn't help in the classroom at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
You've got to figure students don't want to be seeing their teachers on picket lines, and teachers, may lose some of the esteem in which they're held by their students if they're out there carrying picket signs.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's not the best thing to do, but governments have done it in the past, and who knows if they're going to do it again.
We will keep reading your dispatches in the Globe and Mail about this, so you keep covering it, and we thank you for coming into TVO and helping us understand it better tonight.
Thank you for having me.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.